courtesy of our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park by firing things up. These are the hottest takes that we've received in the Real Talk email inbox to talk@ryanjesperson.com. It's the Flamethrower, presented by our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. KP writes in and says, Jespo, the Liberals are losing this election and they know it. Bring up abortion, bringing up guns, creating false flags, like damaging their own signs, planting buttons at the Canada Strong and Free Conference to make conservatives look Trumpish. I believe they're seeing through their internal polling that they are indeed losing. KP says Main Street has them losing. Multiple smaller pollsters due to all the reputable pollsters are showing the Liberal lead has been cut in half over the past week, and we still haven't even seen the English language debate. Donald Trump and tariffs have been backburned to the sixth most important issue. I don't know about that, but he says the top 5 issues are the Conservatives' strongest topics. Mark Carney will get run over in the debate. In French, Blanchette will shine, and in English, Pierre Poilievre will make everybody look including Mark Carney, like 2024 Joe Biden. I don't know about that. He says, but Carney does have one thing on his side, his ties with China and Chinese interference. His MP's ties to Iran. The election is clear. If you want to put Canada first, for now and for your children, for your grandchildren, you vote Conservative. That from KP. What about this one from Jeremy, who says, Jespo, I listened to your episode where you and Johnny were talking about Pierre Poilievre's plan to crack down on crime and the notwithstanding clause. I want to say, first off, I consider myself very left-wing on almost everything except this. He says, I agree with you, Jespo. If somebody hurts kids, lock them up and throw away the key. Before taking them out of society permanently, they should endure the same treatment that they doled out to innocent souls. Kind of the eye for an eye kind of idea. Jeremy says, as far as I'm concerned, some things are unforgivable. Some sinners cannot be rehabilitated. Says, the real reason I'm writing those the way that you and Johnny and how you talked about how abuse is a cycle, and if it's not stopped, the cycle will continue. To some degree, that's probably true. But I offer a different perspective, says Jeremy. As a survivor of abuse, I know the difference between right and wrong. And the excuse that they didn't know any better because that's what they were taught or grew up with is exactly that, a piss poor excuse. Jeremy says, I'm not saying that's what you guys were saying. I just wanted to make sure that real talkers hear that perspective. I'm sure that many other people like me have survived childhood abuse and turned out to be good people. And speaking about abuse as a cycle gives adult abusers an out. I don't give a fuck what was done to someone. If they're an adult and they hurt a kid, there's no excuse, period. That from Jeremy. Jeremy, I 100% agree. How about this from Gerald, who says, I agree with the comments from my fellow Real Talkers that crowd sizes matter so much less than policy and platform. But the need to lie about crowd sizes, that does matter. The need to actually make a point of it, to boast about it. Pierre Poilievre asking that journalist, Laura Stone, if they saw the crowd, all that stuff, it does matters. Gerald says, I think of an annual convention, conservative convention. They had some suspect policy proposals that targeted trans kids. And at the time, I said that one of the things that matters most to me is character, empathy, and compassion. And if a party lacks that, then none of their decisions will include that. This need to lie about crowd size shows a lack of character for everybody involved. That from Gerald. We spent some time talking about that earlier this week. How about this one from Jonathan? Jonathan is a CPA, by the way, and has served Canadians as a member of the military. Jonathan, thank you for your service. He says, when you talk to Dr. Andy Knight about the Canadian military and white supremacy, he doesn't know what he's talking about, says Jonathan. I'm a combat veteran, and that guy is just totally wrong. Says he never once talked about the role of defending and killing our enemy. Peacekeeping is a small part of what we do. The role of the Canadian forces is to defend and then destroy our enemies. This guy has no idea. Jespo, you should have rebutted him. This is truly sad. The only priority our military should have is to create a lethal fighting force, nothing else. I only wish that Dr. Knight would have traveled with us to Iraq and Afghanistan. Let's see how fun that was, where we took our world record sniper shots and our pound for pound lethality to our enemy. We were second to none. He says, I have no desire to talk about this further. Just know that your guest knows nothing about our war fighting role. And Jespo, if you were a patriot, you would have challenged his comments. That from Jonathan. And this one from another Johnny, by the way, from Johnny to Johnny. He says, Jespo, sure enjoy the show. I was listening to you and Johnny talk about housing, and he says there were 3 things that I wanted to torch. Number 1, you guys assume that rent control would stabilize rents. Number 2, that loosening zoning regulations would lead to windfall profits for landowners. And number 3, that only large corporations are capable of building housing at scale. Johnny says, with all of these, You guys have to address the root cause of the problem, which is the financialization of housing and insufficient supply. Rent control, strict zoning regulations, put a wet blanket on new housing starts, and concentrate the industry into the hands of developers with the most capital who can jump through the litany of regulatory hurdles. Do that for long enough, congratulations, you get a monopoly. Rent control further encourages landlords to preemptively jack up rents, knowing they won't be able to raise them later. It also discourages the supply of new units, knowing they won't be profitable. Constrained supply means higher prices. Johnny signs off, disrespectfully yours. He says it is the flamethrower after all. Nice play, Johnny. We encourage you to take us to task. Hold our feet to the fire. Let us know where we're bang on and way off with an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. The Flamethrower is proudly presented by the DQs in Palisades, Namao, Newcastle, Westmount, and Baseline Road. When you're there to pick up a Flamethrower signature stack burger, you make sure you let them know that Real Talk sent ya. Thanks for being a part of this week's episodes. Next week, we are going to hit the ground running on Tuesday all the way through with Canada's most real election coverage. See you soon.